This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, Sarah. How are you?
Good morning.
How are you today?
Can you?
I think a little bit of the connection's hanging up.
Oh, there it goes. I can hear you
There,
now.
all right. Great thank you for your time today, by the way. And before we even get into the discussion, I noticed you were in the public sector for a while and then
Mm-hmm.
the private. How did you find that transition? Because I've worked extensively in the public sector and it's a different world in certain ways, isn't it?
Oh, it's drastically different. Um, it was definitely an experience to go from one to the other. Um, my husband obviously has been in the private sector a long time. So for the first like year at Joann, I would come home and be like, what is going on? Like, I don't understand this. And he's like, that's just how they do it here. And I was like, I don't know. I did just so drastically different.
Right. Wow. Well, you know what? It is an interesting world. And you know, the company you're with, I got to admit, I've never heard of it before. And the over 800 stores, a
Hmm.
patchwork of creativity, they call it. So, I mean, it's almost like the first thing that jumped into my mind was that you have different creative people creating clothing and items, etc. And what you've done is you've created what you could call a community.
Yeah.
uh, I mean, really, it's not like a retail store, although you're classified as retail. You've really created a community of creativity that
Hmm.
sets trends, goes to style. I mean, that's what I read. Would that be a fair statement?
I would think so. Plus, a lot of folks that work there or, vendors that we work with, we all seem to have a story from our childhood about maybe coming with our grandmas or our moms and like doing crafting from when we were little. So it's always interesting to hear someone's like Joanne's story.
Right.
Like I always went with my grandma. I always crafted when I was little. So like when I got a job here was like, look, grandma, I made it. Yeah, so everyone seems to have a story and we're always prevalent in the different communities and we're always trying to help where we can. And it's a good thing.
Well, it's personalized. It's not transactional. That's
Hmm.
my takeaway from that. And I think there's a certain amount of reward with that because we need more community. Anyway, let me give you an idea of what I do. I'm a industry analyst and expert, and I talk with different solution providers. I only work with a handful of them who give me access to their clients.
Hmm.
You know, the authenticity you talk about in your community. I mean, everything seems to be Madison Avenue. Everyone sounds the same, etc. So the providers that say, look, we've done work with them. We'll set up the introduction. Ask them whatever you want. You don't have to give us any questions in advance.
Mhm.
And that's the whole idea, just raw truth in terms of that, because in many instances, when practitioners reach out to me, they come to me because I'm trusted. I don't have a stake in the company. I don't have a commission on anything. It's just basically what made you do that. So one of the first questions I guess I'd really like to know is how did you discover Focal Point? How did that come about?
So maybe about 2 years ago, we started looking at various different like procurement solutions. We already had one. It was pretty basic, nothing exciting, expensive, but not really doing what we needed it to do. We weren't really using all aspects of it. It was put in well before anyone else's time that had been there. And it was a really long process. It died. And then it was like, you know what? Let's bring this back to the table. And we looked at Focal Point, we looked at a couple others, and Focal Point was a lot further along than any of the other, like, for lack of a better term, like startup
Right.
companies that were doing this work. Um, they seem to have a lot of the same flows that our current system or our previous system already had. They were super easy to work with um, throughout the entire process. Never an issue, very easy to work with. Um, we've not had too many issues with their system at all. Obviously, cost was a factor, good pricing. Um, but we also didn't want to go with like another large, you know, company that's really just not going to care. We wanted to kind of go with like a smaller company that we could work with and build off of. And we also kind of liked the fact that not only were they helping us, but we were helping them as well.
Right. So
Yeah,
realistically speaking, it's not the features, functions, and benefits as much as the people behind the technology,
that does have
which
a
was
big impact.
important. And
Hmm.
I guess it doesn't hurt that their CEO was a CPO
Oh,
themselves because
yeah.
they can then talk your language. So it made it accessible. Now, in terms of I'm not interested in the features, functions, and benefits. In terms of the rollout and the relationship, uh, were there any challenges? Like obviously, there's always challenges. There's things that come up, etc. I mean, how did that dynamic work out? Because I would imagine, as you said, if you're with a large, big company, you would be just another client, and it would be, well, we got to fix this feature and function. I mean, how did you deal with challenges in terms of implementation? Because smaller companies, while they're very innovative, and have certainly a high degree of expertise behind the technology, they don't have the old, no one ever got fired for buying IBM
Yeah.
security code behind them. So how did you find what challenges did you run into with them, and how did you find dealing with them on that and reaching a resolution?
So a lot of the challenges were more so um, for implementation on the side of trying to get our current data over into their system. Um, that seemed to be the bulk of the issue, not necessarily the building of the system, but getting current data over into theirs. So that required a lot of work from our IT team as well as theirs. And it seemed like they may not have as many staff as like a bigger company would. So, and I know I'm well aware that we're not their only customer.
Hmm.
So I think that that was a challenge. Um, Plus, during the implementation, Joann procurement team was um, very down staff. So that didn't help. We were also up against the wire with our contract for the other program. So
Right.
that was probably not helpful. And then, middle of, right before we went live, actually, the director of procurement at Joann left.
Oh,
So it was like the perfect storm, right? But I will say, other than like be like the data issue and getting things like going back and forth, like, because I picked up the implementation after our director left, and Focal Point was super good about like, whatever we can do to help. They worked with our IT team, but like probably more so on like I would say like their developer side or their IT side is where you could probably see like the challenges.
Right. Now, and again, that perfect storm, because you know what, every implementation, and this is the reason why I go through these interviews. If you read case studies, it's like, I call it getting a reference from my mother for a job. Oh, it's all beautiful. It's flowers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they don't go into the challenges part of it. Looking now where you are, is it living up to your expectations?
It could be better.
Okay. No, this is what I'm looking. Now, is it a technology issue? Is it a support issue? Where could it be better?
I would not say it's support at all, because like I'm still meeting with them like once a week. If I reach out to them, they respond quickly. So I would definitely say it's not support. I think it's still partly on the fact that we at Joann don't have enough data for us to look at it. They like, hey, we built it this way, and in practice, it's not. This isn't quite right. Like, let's fix this.
Right.
So I think that's part of the issue. And because, say they do a release monthly, right? Every time they do a release, the system seems to, take a crap every time there's a release. So there's things like that. There's a few things that we have kind of had, waiting for them to fix for a couple months, and it's still not fixed. Again, more so on like the IT development side.
Right.
But I think, like I said, if we had more time on the Joann side to really like get in there and dig around and, like, hey, doing it this way is not working. Let's fix it. I'm 100% sure Focal Point would sit down with us and be like, hey, let's do this together. So I don't doubt it. So I think it's kind of on both parts, but there are a few things that we need done and it just hasn't been done. So yeah. I mean,
Okay. It sounds like I use that analogy. Was it Rob Hanfield once talked about data management, et cetera, as being like, or clean data, trying to pack your bags while running to catch a train, because you still have the business you have to go with. So if you look at that, there are hiccups, there are challenges in there. But if you could do it all over again, would you deal with them? And why?
I think that we would. And if I had my gumption, and it's probably not even a realistic gumption, like if we could have kept our other system live and running and did this like in parallel and had the ability to like test it more and maybe have it up and running for some small things and did it kind of in a smaller way, that might have been a better option than trying to rush through it. Because when we did implement, it was like up against the timeline on the other contract. So we had a very short runway.
Yeah, by the way, if you don't mind me asking, who is the other contract with?
Workday.
Workday. Okay, Workday. It's funny, as I remember Workday, they acquired a company called Scout RFP.
That's who we had, yes.
Okay, well, wait a sec. I've covered Scout since they started, going back 2013, 2014. I know the owners very, very well. And they acquired, so now this is an interesting point. Scout RFP had a lot of promise, and then I've heard different things saying once they become part of a bigger organization, you sort of lost that personal touch. In other words, if you look at it, you can say, I mean, no implementation goes smoothly, so you got to look at the people you're working with. But I think it's very interesting what you've talked about, because if you were able to do something sort of like in parallel and do a gradual shift over, and ultimately what would happen is you wouldn't have had as much pressure
Yes.
on the front end. See this,
Mm-hmm.
and this is why this is kind of these discussions are important. So when I guess the best way to sum it up is there's always going to be transitions. There's going to be bumps. There's ways you can
Oh,
look
yeah.
back and do it better. But if you team up with someone, would you say that that advantage is where Focal Point comes in? At least they're going to be there with you through the rough seas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
So
they
you're
would.
not alone and sorry. All right. So let me ask you one final question. With the things that still need to be done and the progression, has it had, of what you've been able to accomplish so far, had a positive influence in terms of what you can do?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's moving along, and I definitely can see within the system, advantages, and I can see like future potential. And we've actually already identified something new that we can use it for. So like that's been super exciting. So I definitely see like the advantages of it. I see it and I love it. But like I said, like there's just a few things left, but their support, the people that they have working there are like fantastic. Even like
So,
Andros himself has like come to see us. He'll email every so often just to be, hey, how's it going? But like their support team's fabulous. Like I don't doubt that if I were to reach out and be like, oh my God, the world is crumbling. I've lost everything in your system, that they
yeah.
wouldn't be like, I'm on it.
Well, I think that's important because, I've been in high tech for more than 40 years and procurement almost as long. And technology is irrelevant to the expertise and the relationship behind that. No matter how advanced technology goes, and it's come a long ways. I mean, I remember the days of CPM, even before DOS, and
Mm-hmm.
technology is always in 15 years from now, we'll have something exciting. But at the end of the day, if you have that relationship with the people who understand, because I don't think it's possible that everything goes seamless plug and play. You need to have that expertise related. Well, listen, I appreciate your time today. I don't know if this is what you expected in the interview, but
I
it's
didn't even know what to expect. I was like,
good,
sure, I'll do
good.
it.
Authenticity. Now, let me ask you a question because I'd like to share this interview with my readers, etc. Because you come across natural, you come across no, and you know what? People, I'll be quite frank with you. People are tired of the Madison Avenue pre-scripted. Oh, look at, we love it, and this is what we did, and this is what we're going to do, and get into the trenches because that's real. And I hope you don't have. I hope you won't mind. I don't think you've given me any company secrets. I hope you don't mind if I use this and share it because your frank tone and discussion is something that we really need. And I think that ties into the authenticity of the patchwork of your community. It's real,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Yeah.
what we need. So listen, Sarah, thank you so very much. I'll tag you when I share this. And you know what? You're going to help a lot of people with what you're talking about because I think a lot of people are reluctant to step out and say, "Wait a second, not everything's perfect, but here's how we can work to make it perfect." And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really going to be the game changer.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.